Okay, so this is the February meeting of the research committee. So welcome everyone. I think I may see new faces again, just like last month, which is awesome. My name is Tori Nagash, and I work at the ACUHO-I home office. I'm the research initiatives manager, and I serve as the staff liaison for the research committee and also the Campus Housing Index Engagement Committee. And I am helping out by leading today in Ariel's absence. I believe she'll be back next month for a March meeting. And she has put together a wonderful agenda for us, which I shared, but I can share again for those who just joined. And so really what we're looking for today is to talk about the funded research grant, top priority, since the call for proposals will be opening on March 1st. So gosh, is that already next week? It might be next week. How can March already be next week? I don't know. And then she was hoping we could briefly talk about various places the committee can engage with one another and just in general with potential research topics or issues in the field. And then also to talk about, like last month, we talked a little bit about the research agenda priority areas and talking more about those and potentially what questions we might want to look at putting into a survey that we could send out to membership as we've been tasked, the committee's been tasked with leading a review of those to see if our current ones are still relevant, if we'd like to revise them, if we have suggestions for new priority areas. And so that would be the third big point for today. But I guess to start, why don't we go around and just do some brief introductions? As I said, I do see some new faces, which is exciting. So again, my name's Tori. I work in the ACUHO-I home office, research initiatives manager, and I am the staff liaison for the research committee, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm gonna ask Janie to introduce herself next as a past chair of this committee and as a board member.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, good just now afternoon in my time zone, everyone. Coming to you from the Pacific Coast. So my name is Janie Sacco, she, her pronouns, and I am currently the Director of Knowledge Enhancement. So the research committee is one of the areas that I liaise with as a board member. So nice to be here. I'll go ahead and just continue on the screen and kick it over to my video neighbor, Curtis.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Curtis Nash. I am the Associate Director of Housing and Residence Life at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. In past, I've assisted with some of the funded research grant proposals and really enjoyed that experience. So I'm happy to take part in these meetings this year. And I'm going to pass it over to Vaughn.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vaughn Stange. I am with the University of Iowa. I've served on the research committee for a couple of years now and a former board member. And I will pass it on to Erin.
I think I'm the only Erin in the room. I always worry about that. My name is Erin Pettibone. I am the Assistant Director at University Family Housing at the University of Toronto, which encompasses our student family housing and also our faculty housing here on campus. I have been, I've attended various ACUHO-I conferences, but haven't been an active participant in this group before, so happy to join. And I will pass it on to my nearest screen neighbor, who is Ben.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Keating. I'm a senior program coordinator for residential communities at Rutgers. New to the committee, joining Dr. Legette's kind of marketing with Greg and Ebony. So, and I'll pass it to Greg.
Absolutely. So my name is Greg Dyer. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a student conduct coordinator for residence life here at Rutgers. I'm also new to the committee as a part of Dr. Leggett's push. So I'll pass it over to Ebony.
Did say Ebony, right? Okay. Hi, I'm Ebony Edwards. I'm a graduate intern and present life coordinator for the first year area on Douglas, and Dr. L did a really great job of bringing people in, and I'm a result of that. Passing it to I'm not sure who hasn't called yet. Yeah, okay.
The last person. My name is Bailey, and I'm an associate director at East Carolina University, and I am also new to the committee this year.
Oh, I think I'm the last person. Hey everyone, my name is Christiana. I am the Residence Life Coordinator for the University of Oklahoma in Arezzo, the study abroad campus. And I think I've been a reviewer for a couple grant rounds. I don't know which the word is right now. But I haven't had a chance to be an active participant in the research committee just because of scheduling and everything. So I'm really excited to be here.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Happy to have you here. And I think I'm going to dive right into sharing a little bit more about the funded research grant, since several of you are new to the committee, or at least to these meetings. I want to share a little bit more about that. And then what we're looking for in terms of potential volunteers to help with the review process this year. So the funded research grant program is a grant program through ACUHO-I that's funded through the ACUHO-I Foundation. We support research related to housing and residence life that ties into both the Future of the Profession initiatives. If you're not familiar with that, I think there's a link in the notes further down where you can look at those in more detail, as well as our research agenda priorities, which I mentioned a little bit. And really, we're looking to support faculty, staff, and students who are doing research in this area. Ideally, it would be on emerging important topics in the field, but really we're open to anything that touches on housing and residence life and can be tied into those imperative areas or the research agenda. There's funding of up to 7,000 US dollars per researcher per year. It is an annual grant cycle, so we do this one time per year, and the cycle will be opening March 1st. So we'll start accepting proposals March 1st through the first week of April. And there isn't really much that's needed to be done from you during that time other than sharing the opportunity, because we're looking to have as many applicants as possible to submit proposals. And then when the cycle closes, I do a process of reviewing the submissions just to make sure they're anonymized. That is something I post that's required and that we ask in materials, but there's always something that gets missed somewhere. So I go through and I do my best to spot check things and edit out anything that would be identifiable. And then all the materials and the rubric for judging would be shared with those who are reviewing. And we would ask you to review each proposal. The most we've had since I've been at ACUHO-I is 6 in 1 year. I know prior years before my time, there were more, upwards of maybe 10 to 15. If we got that many, then I would probably split you up so that you had about 5 each maximum to look at. But and this year we're actually going to do 2 rounds of review. So I would have some of you in the first round doing an initial review of the proposals with the rubric to give them a score. The rubric lays out exactly how you would score them, what criteria we're looking for, and then you would assign a score for each area. Our system that we're using this year is called Sessionize. The evaluation process we used for Campus Home Live proposal review, and I found it to be very straightforward. So hopefully those of you that volunteer, it would be the same process for you for this as well. But essentially, we're going to use what's called a STARS rating system in that platform. And so for each rubric item, you would assign from 0 to 5 stars a score. You can use half-star scores as well. So you could do, 2.5, 3.5. You could do 0.5 if you wanted to, up to 5. And you would do that for each proposal. And then in round 2, we would do a second look. And at that point, it would be a yes, maybe no rating. So yes being yes, we feel this should be funded. Maybe being what we would consider with revisions. So sort of not like a backup, I guess, for lack of an alternate, I guess, proposal that would still be potentially considered for funding, and then no would be that it should not be funded. And then typically there's a final review, which in past years has involved myself, the committee chair, if there's a chair-elect, that person, and then occasionally past chairs or Janie from the board as our liaison there may be involved just in a final look and decision making. Typically that revolves around a closer inspection of their budget and what we would consider allowable funding or if any revisions would be needed there. And yeah, so I think that's sort of the process. We would be doing the reviewing in April, potentially into the first week of May, if we need that time. And so that would sort of be a rough estimate of when this would happen, would be after that first week of April. So the last 3 weeks of April into that first week of May. And I would estimate a maximum of 1 hour per proposal. Just because we do ask for a lot of information to be submitted. So abstract, introduction, methodology, implications, and then there are some uploads we ask for. So if they have IRB approval, we ask for them to share that, a letter or some type of documentation of that. If they're using a survey instrument, we ask for a copy of that so that we can review the questions. We ask for a budget, a timeline, and then we give the option for any additional documents that they would want us to review as an upload too. I think in January, we had a question from someone who maybe was feeling like they don't have as much research experience as others, and they were concerned about volunteering. And I think it's with the rubric and the other materials we have, that it's a fairly easy process. Really all you're doing is taking what's laid out in the rubric with that guidance and making a score rating of what you read. And then I'm there to support you if there's something in the materials that you have a question about, or in the rubric that you have a question about and you're not sure how to score something. I'm always available to help through that process too. So questions about the grant, because that was a lot of talking.
A question about that specifically. Would you be able to add Greg back to the meeting? His Wi-Fi kicked him out.
Oh, I see him in the waiting room.
Thank you.
Yes. There we go.
Tori, the topics for the research agenda, are they going to be based on the research priority areas? Are they given priority for that?
So we do ask a question, and they have to select at least one research priority area or one future of the profession area. And there is a part of the rubric where you're asked to evaluate them. I mean, they have to select one, and then they also have to justify how their research ties to that. So it's not like just checking a box. And so that is a part of the evaluation process in the rubric. Yes, they're able to select one or the other, but I feel in most cases, they're able to select at least one from both because they are, in my mind, aligned. So yes, they would need to do that.
Okay. I was just curious. I was part of the group that actually created the research agenda priority areas probably a decade ago. There were actually 8 of them, and we focused on 3 of them for the last decade. And there were others in there as well, but we did not. Those are the ones that we saw were the priorities at the time. And I think the goal was to be able to try to hit all of them. Now, it's
Okay.
decade later, and now we have the imperatives, and I'm wondering if that's the approach that we should be taking. That's probably not. It's probably too late to do that for this year's grants, but yeah, I think the discussion over the course of this year would be: is the research agenda priority areas, should they change? Should we move them to the imperatives that ACUHO-I has, or it'd be a good discussion topic for this group?
Yes. Yeah. And that is on the agenda for today too. That's a goal for this year, I suppose, for the committee is to do some type of review of those, or at least to start that process. It's interesting that you say there were 8 of them or 10 of them,
Or 8 of them, yeah.
8 of them. Initially, because I did not know that there were, I thought it's just been these 3 for that long, but I didn't know that there were others initially, as part of that process. But, we could update, the materials to require them to identify a feature of the profession imperative area. I do agree, that however the committee, decides to move forward with the review process, that whatever, if there are new ones that they align, with the future of the profession, imperatives, it could even be some of the future of the profession imperative areas. I don't know if it would want to be, I mean, it's not up to me, but it could be all 8. It could be 3 of them. It could be however many, but, yeah, that's really what I think, the task is to decide, what Ariel and I had talked about is, and I think what she brought up last month, is doing a survey, to get some initial feedback from folks about the current, 3, agenda priority areas, if they're still relevant, if we should change them, suggestions for changes. So right with what you were saying, Vaughn. Yes.
Yeah. I apologize for jumping ahead on the
That's
on the
okay.
agenda. But I
No.
mean, yeah, a decade ago, P3s were, I mean, they were
Mhm.
emerging. Now they're just the course of how we live now. So I don't know that that particular is an emerging trend or a
Mhm.
priority area. Just my opinion.
Yes. Yes. So I think, student outcomes and student success are the 2 where they're probably always going to be relevant. And those are the 2 I think you can easily tie to a lot of the future of the profession, imperatives as well. But, um, you know, are they still what should be focused on, for our research agenda? Should they be others? I guess that's the question. So, um, yes, but through the funded research grant application, the proposal process, they're asked to identify which of those their research relates to. And it can be one, it can be many, however they're able to link that. If you're interested in volunteering, or would like more information, separately from this meeting, feel free. I have my email on the, agenda, and Ariel's as well. But feel free to email anytime. And if you want to volunteer, I know Vaughn has already offered, and we've had a couple of others. We'll start putting a list together, and when we get closer to that time, I'll be sending out more materials and information to you, as part of that process. Okay. If there's no questions, I feel like we should jump straight into the research agenda, review. I don't know, Janie, if you want to talk about, because this was something that was sort of on the agenda when you were chair and chair-elects as well, and there was some attempts to make progress, I suppose, but not much forward movement.
Yeah, so I think in this, sure, absolutely. So what I can say is that something we can do in this committee is like make recommendations, I think, to update our research agenda. So our recommendation is that we want to align our research agenda with the future of the profession initiatives, or perhaps call out some future of the profession initiatives that we would like to make the research agenda. We can absolutely do that. And so that would be something we could do in the work of this committee. So if this is of interest to folks, we can certainly make this a topic for the March, is just to have folks review our future of the profession initiatives and see kind of where we might want to realign our research agenda. We can also go in a direction that's different than the future of the profession. However, that seems to be just kind of the aim of our association at this point, and so it might make sense to align there. So let me go ahead and I can share our future of the profession like documents. But I'm thinking that it would probably be good to give folks like we you know how we love education, some homework to take some time to review and see what our future of the profession document is. And let me just go ahead and pop that in the chat for folks to see. And so the report is in like the results section. And so we have identified 8 different areas, excuse me, that we've focused on in terms of our future. So these include enabling workforce sustainability, creating inclusive communities, strengthening mental health, foster strategic collaborations, shifting the higher education business model, championing facility design and maintenance, and communicating campus housing's value. And so there's a couple different approaches we can take. Is as you're reading through this, consider what might be an opportunity when we look at our research agenda for areas that aren't already saturated in the research. So there are some things on here that we've noticed future of the profession that you might say, we have a significant amount of research already in this area. Part of our research agenda, I think, in ACUHO-I is to expand what research we're doing and really kind of suggest to folks, these are the areas that are under-researched or have shifted enough in the past few years that we need more research. And I think it's also helpful to consider a global lens to research. I think a lot of our research ends up being fairly US, North American higher education centered. And I think there are opportunities to expand that to more global based research. And so those are some considerations I'm giving you as we think about how we can shape our research agenda. But I think that this committee's focus can and should be to just look at this every year and think, is this still the right area and where we want to be focusing our time? So happy to open it to questions and initial thoughts folks have. I think my first questions, I saw some good nonverbals earlier, but I just want to make sure that we as a team are on a similar page. So we're thinking that it's time for, are we all in agreement that it's time for a refresh of our research agenda and to pick some new areas of focus? Super. And do we feel like taking some time to take a look at our future of the profession document might be a good starting point?
Yeah, sorry. At first glance, I need a minute to marinate.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, marinate away for sure.
At first glance, just comparing those 2 pages, because I haven't had a chance to, I've never run across this discovery report. It feels as though this is gonna hit the mark more so than the 3, as far as sorry, I'm going a little bit backwards too, the grant proposals go. From past ones, I feel like they kind of lean to this future of the profession, these 8 tenets or points that have been kind of teased out. So I wonder if that might be the main focus of the work we're hoping to sponsor through that grant, because it really is kind of hitting the mark for me. And you all can agree or disagree out loud, please do. But as far as conversations I've been having with people, I'm fairly new to the field, so I'm asking all the questions. But as far as what I'm hearing from the field, this feels more like in tune with that, this future of the profession one report.
Yeah, I think the good thing about the timing of this meeting is there's still a week, right, until proposals are accepted. So there's still time to update the application form and the materials. And that's just a small tweak. If we were to say this, your proposal should align with the future of the profession, at least one area. I can definitely do that. And I've sort of lean in that direction as well, just because I do feel a lot of time and effort was put into identifying these imperatives. There was a task force, there were committees that put, as I said, a lot of time and effort into this, and feel strongly that these are the areas that should be focused on as the future of the housing and residence life profession. So yes, in my mind, it would make sense that we would want to support and further research that connects with these as well. So I appreciate that suggestion, because that's what I've been thinking myself too. I think I saw a raised hand pop up. Was that from Aaron or someone else, or did it disappear?
I put it down. I did have a raised hand because I was looking to find previous recipients of the awards of the grant, just to get a sense of who had gotten it, what sort of projects in the past. Was that something I'm not aware of? I found the 2024 announcement, but I'm wondering if there's a link that would capture several years, or if that's something that you have handy.
Yeah, so I can share that. We had some more detailed list on our old website.
Okay.
We transitioned to a new website in the fall, and that has not been re-added there yet. It's on my list of things that need to be repopulated.
Fair.
But I do have a list, so I can share that with the committee when we send out the recording. And that way, as you're thinking about this and thinking about the grant as well, you'll have that to look at.
I think that would be helpful. Sorry, that's a little bit off track from whether we want to shift to these future of the
No.
profession things, but
I think it relates to both. So yeah.
Also add in that in the past, when we've done funded research and tried to align or figure out where the research speaks to, oftentimes it's landed in the most broad category, which was like student outcomes and student success. So we have been able to align that, but that's like all the things we do are student driven, right? And like we're looking at student outcomes and success. So we've never denied, I think, a funded research proposal that was of quality based on alignment with the research agenda, but that's also where people by default tended to have their pieces matched. So I think adding it, all that to say, provides with some really good direction. And I think there's an opportunity to still look at a quality funded research proposal, right? That may not exactly align, because it will have some sort of an alignment with the future of the profession.
As ACUHO-I wants to position itself into the future, it makes sense that we're using the future of the profession imperatives in order to move that along. And I think they're broad enough that student success is in there, but I think there's some areas that we really need to, that I hope that we can find some research grants are, which is workforce stability, because the future of profession is going to depend upon new professionals coming into the organization, which I think certainly at our campus, we've seen some struggles with that. So if you've seen them as well, then that's, I mean, it would be great to be able to look at these areas to make sure that we're a stable organization moving forward.
So it sounds like there's somewhat of a consensus around perhaps scrapping the current research agenda areas, looking to tap some of these future of the profession imperatives, left up to further discussion regarding which ones of those, or if it's some adaptation of those, perhaps for next meeting. That's maybe further discussion after folks have time to read through the report and look into things a little bit more. Okay. All right. I'm trying to think if there's other helpful. I feel like this report does a good job of summarizing and giving some context behind this as well. I will share for Campus Home Live, when the call for proposals was open, folks did have to tie their session proposal to one of these areas. So that was part of that process. And so I think it would make sense to follow the similar process for the grant as well. Okay. Would it be, so I guess after we discuss next month at the March meeting, maybe then we could revisit this question of would we want to send out a survey to get some additional feedback? Do we feel within the committee that we would want to make a recommendation about forward steps in this area? I suppose that would then probably go to Janie and then to the board for review and consideration. But I don't think that's going to happen, obviously, before March when the grant opens, but I can update the materials and the application to remove the research agenda items and to require that link to at least one future of the profession imperative area.
Sounds great.
Okay. I think the only other thing that was on the agenda was just that Ariel and I have been talking about ways the committee can engage both with each other, with the ACUHO-I, and we were talking about the fact that ACUHO-I has a LinkedIn group, which I don't know that many are aware of, but there are, I think, like 9,000 and some members. And there are things that are shared there. It's not something that we moderate. It's just a group there that folks can join and you can share posts. Also, connections, if you don't already pay attention or kind of read through the connections newsletters that come out, if you're not receiving those for some reason, let me know and I can make sure that you get added back onto that list. But those will have announcements about research related things from time to time, and things that might be of interest otherwise. The online community. So I don't know if all of you are familiar with the ACUHO-I online community, but that is a place where that we have a research community where we do try to post at a minimum about upcoming meetings, agendas, recordings, things like that. But it can also be a place to ask questions or gather with one another, along with the other communities that are within there. So there's a general one, sort of, I think it's called the open forum, but then there's other subgroups, just like the research community as well. And then if you have suggestions of other ways or places that the committee might engage, those are welcome, but those are just three we wanted to highlight to make sure that you are aware that they exist and that you're welcome to join the two, and also that you should keep an eye out for connections each week when that comes out, which should be tomorrow. It comes out typically every Tuesday, unless there's a holiday or something going on. But, yeah. And I think otherwise, were there any questions or anything else that you'd like to talk about today while we're together?
You mentioned the connections that comes out. I
Sorry, it cut out a little bit. You don't receive that, or?
No, I don't know.
Okay, let me make a note and I can check with our marketing folks and make sure you're on the list. We have had situations where somehow folks have been unsubscribed for somehow, and we're able to add you back. So I will look into that and see if I can get that taken care of so that you get it tomorrow, potentially.
Thank-
Um,
Ebony, you might also want to check with your senior housing officer to find out whether you are on their list of people, because I'm assuming, Tori, you're drawing that from the list that ACUHO-I that the schools provide to ACUHO-I regarding their staff. So just that might be something that you can check out as well.
Yeah, so it would be tied to the staff roster that we have in our system for the school. And so yes, as long as you're on the staff roster and you've opted into receiving that communication, you should receive it. But like I said, there's been situations where for some reason or another you're left off and we're able to add you back on.
Okay, thank you.
My inbox also filters this newsletter.
Uh,
I have Outlook, so it's just like, this isn't a focused email. I'm like, I didn't say that, but okay. So if you want to just search, I just searched through to make sure I was getting it, and I was, but it's not in my main inbox.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I know that in the past, it would go to spam or junk or occasionally we switched to a new system that sends them out, and I think we've had a better rate of receipt, but yes, that's also a good point. I'm thinking I can't think of anything else that I have for today. This meeting recording I will process and get loaded onto our ACUHO-I YouTube channel. Hopefully you're all aware that ACUHO-I has a YouTube channel. If not, you can visit that to find a lot of recordings of webinars and meetings and past events. There is a research playlist where research webinars and other recordings live. And I will also send out, so once that's available, I'll send an email to everyone with that link to this agenda again, because there's some the priority area information and some things are within this, links to those. And then I'll add a note about the homework of reviewing the future of the profession areas for the March meeting, which let me double check the date for that. It's already been scheduled. I think, let's see. Well, it may not be on my calendar, but I can check here in our Zoom. Just thinking it's the end of the month, but let's see. It's the 26th, March 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. That was at the time that folks said they were available last month. Ariel sent out a survey just to get availability, and that seemed to be the winner for next month. I believe the link to that's been sent out already. I'll add that in for the email as well, just so hopefully everything is in one place and we can add it to the online community as well. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then I will give you back, 18 minutes of your hour. And I'll look forward to seeing you all hopefully next month again. Feel free to email me if you have questions or you want to jump in and volunteer for reviewing the grant. We'd be happy to have you.
Yeah, I will plug it as very fun, and I've done it every year. It's been it's a lot of fun to do. It's good to see all the cool research that's coming on, and it's one of I think something that brings me a lot of joy in my day to say, like, look at all these people doing great research and everything. So feel free to tell your friends as well, your colleagues, friends who are interested in research. Get the word out. We'll get some great reviewers.
Yeah. And I will say your review feedback matters because your comments are shared with those who submit proposals. It's anonymous, but they receive it. And I've heard from a number, especially graduate students, that they incorporate the feedback into their work. So they share it with their committees, their advisors or chairs. And in some cases, they've even made revisions to their research based on feedback they've received. So yes, it definitely matters. All right. Thank you, everyone. It's great to see you all today. Have a good rest of your day.